You are doing it right now. You have been doing it your entire life, and you have almost certainly been doing it wrong. Breathing, the one thing your body was supposed to handle automatically. The one process so fundamental that your brainstem takes over the moment you stop thinking about it. And yet, quietly and visibly, most modern humans have drifted into a pattern of breathing that their ancestors would not recognize. A pattern that is making them more anxious, more tired, more prone to illness, and less able to think clearly. But to understand why, you have to go back, way back. To a time before offices, before alarm clocks, before the relentless low-grade stress that hums through a modern life. Your ancestors breathed differently, not because they were trying to, because their environment demanded it. Think about what a day looked like 200,000 years ago. Long stretches of slow movement, tracking, gathering, resting, punctuated by short, violent bursts of real danger. A predator in the grass, a rival group on the ridge. Your body would spike into a state of high alert, and then when the threat passed, it would come back down. That recovery, that return to baseline, was built entirely around the breath. Here is what most people do not know. Your breathing pattern is not just a response to your emotional state. It is also a cause of it. The psychologist Alicia Moret at Southern Methodist University spent years studying patients with panic disorder. What she found was startling. The breath changes before the panic, not after. People were chronically over-breathing without realizing it, and that pattern was directly triggering the cascade of physical sensations they were interpreting as anxiety. The breathing was not a symptom. The breathing was the engine. This is because of something called the Bohr Effect. Discovered in 1904 by the Danish physiologist Christian Bohr, it describes a relationship that almost no one learns about in school. It is not just the amount of oxygen in your blood that matters. It is the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is not simply a waste gas. It is the trigger that tells your red blood cells to release oxygen to your tissues. Without enough carbon dioxide, your blood holds onto its oxygen, and your cells begin to starve even as your blood is fully saturated. Your body interprets this as a threat. And what depletes carbon dioxide? Breathing too fast, breathing through your mouth, taking large, frequent breaths when you do not need to, which is, for many people, most of the time, your nose knows things your mouth does not. Nasal breathing is not just a preference. It is a physiological system with no real equivalent in mouth breathing. Your nasal passages are lined with cilia that filter particles from the air before they reach your lungs. They humidify and warm the air to the exact temperature your lungs prefer. They produce nitric oxide, a molecule that dilates blood vessels, lowers blood pressure, and dramatically increases the efficiency of oxygen absorption. The same nitric oxide your body releases during exercise. Your nose makes it every time you breathe through it. The researcher James Nestor spent years investigating what happens when you remove nasal breathing entirely. In a now famous experiment conducted with researchers at Stanford, Nestor and a colleague plugged their own noses for 10 days, forcing themselves to breathe exclusively through their mouths. The results, documented in measurable physiological data, were disturbing. Blood pressure spiked. Snoring appeared in people who had never snored. Sleep quality collapsed. Stress markers climbed. Both subjects developed sleep apnea within days. Then the plugs came out. Every metric reversed within 2 weeks, 10 days. That is how quickly the body responds to the wrong breathing pattern. But here is where it gets stranger and older. The researcher and anthropologist George Catlin documented something in the 1800s that modern science is only now catching up to. He spent years living with Native American tribes and observed with genuine curiosity that they deliberately trained their infants to breathe through their noses. Mothers would gently close a baby's mouth during sleep. The reasoning, passed down through generations, was simple. Mouth breathers got sick more. They slept worse. They were less calm. Catlin wrote a book about it in 1862, filled with observations that the medical establishment at the time ignored. Now, a century and a half later, researchers in paleoanthropology and dental science are arriving at exactly the same conclusion through entirely different methods. Skulls tell a story. When paleoanthropologist Robert Caruccini and his colleagues examined pre-industrial human skulls alongside modern ones, they found something that should not be possible. Older skulls from people who ate harder, more resistant food, and who breathed through their noses had wider palates, straighter teeth, and more open airways. Modern skulls, on average, show narrowed palates, crooked teeth, and airways that are increasingly compromised. This is not genetic drift. It happened too fast. The change accelerated over the last 200 years, precisely as diet softened and mouth breathing became more common. The face itself is changing because of how you breathe. And if the face changes, the airway changes. And if the airway changes, the breath changes. And the breath changes everything. You know this, actually, even if you have never framed it this way. You know that when you are panicking, your breath is short, fast, and shallow, coming in through the mouth. You know that when you are deeply calm, the breath is slow and long and quiet, moving almost without effort through the nose. What you may not have realized is that the arrow works in both directions. The state shapes the breath, but the breath also shapes the state. This is the ancient technology hidden inside your own body. Researchers studying the vagus nerve, the long wandering nerve that connects your brainstem to nearly every organ, have found that slow, rhythmic breathing directly activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode that counteracts the fight or flight response. Specifically, breathing at around 5 to 6 breaths per minute with a long exhale produces something called heart rate variability resonance. Your heart rate speeds up on the inhale and slows on the exhale in a rhythmic wave that is measurable and profoundly calming. The cardiologist Luciano Bernardi found that this rate, 5 to 6 breaths per minute, is almost exactly the rate of prayer and meditation across multiple traditions. The rosary, Buddhist chanting, yogic pranayama, these are not coincidences. These are old technologies for regulating the nervous system through the breath. People discovered it empirically, over centuries, without knowing why it worked. Now we know why. Your exhale is the most powerful tool you have for calming your own nervous system. The exhale is when the vagus nerve fires. The exhale is when heart rate drops. The exhale is when the body signals to itself that the threat is past. Most people's exhales are too short. They breathe in and out with roughly equal timing. But extending the exhale, making it twice as long as the inhale, shifts you out of stress and into recovery faster than almost anything else you can do in a moment of anxiety. You do not need a pill. You do not need a device. The mechanism is already inside you. It has been there for 200,000 years. So why are so many people breathing wrong? Part of the answer is posture. When you slouch, when your head drops forward, when your chest caves inward, you compress the diaphragm. The diaphragm is the primary muscle of breathing. It is a dome-shaped sheet of muscle below your lungs. When it contracts, it pulls downward, creating negative pressure that draws air in. Diaphragmatic breathing, breathing into the belly, is what your body defaults to when your posture is open. But when posture collapses, the diaphragm is restricted, and you shift to secondary breathing muscles, the neck, the shoulders, the chest. These muscles were designed for brief emergency use. Using them all day is like driving in first gear on a highway. Part of the answer is stress. Chronic low-level stress keeps the sympathetic nervous system partially activated, which keeps the breathing shallow and fast. And shallow, fast breathing keeps the sympathetic nervous system partially activated. You are caught in a loop, and most people have been in it so long they think it is normal. Part of the answer is that no one teaches this. You learned to read. You learned arithmetic. You were never taught to breathe. But here's what you can do right now. Close your mouth. Breathe in through your nose for 4 counts. Hold lightly for 2. Breathe out through your nose for 6 to 8 counts. Repeat. What you will notice within 2 to 3 minutes is a shift, not a dramatic shift. A quiet one. The hum behind your eyes softens slightly. The tension in your jaw loosens slightly. The sense of low-level urgency that modern life runs on eases, just a little. That is your ancient nervous system coming back online. Your body has not forgotten how to do this. It remembers. It was built for this. Every piece of the machinery is intact. The nose, the nitric oxide, the vagus nerve, the diaphragm. All of it is there, waiting. Tonight, when everything gets quiet, pay attention to the breath. Not to fix it, not to control it, just to notice. You have been breathing your entire life. You may be doing it for the first time.